Hey guys, what's going on? It's Colin here again, back at the engine storage shed. This is approximately a 6 foot by 6 foot by 6 foot shed over at my grandpa's, and as you can see, this is where I keep all the engines in the collection. So obviously they're not all in here yet, but the 3 flywheel engines will be across the floor here. The Model B will sit here. This is a parts engine, and a couple engines you guys haven't seen yet are going to be here. There's also some engines in here that you guys haven't seen yet, so spoiler alert. There'll be videos on them all in due time, but today is actually the first day of spring. So what I want to do is, seeing as though I have some free time, I figured today would be a better day than ever. It's beautiful out. I'm going to go ahead and drag a bunch of these engines out and fire them all up for spring startups, kind of like I did last year. For some of these engines, that will be the first time running since about November, actually. So no guarantees that they're all going to run, but I figured I could drag out just about as many as I can, and we'll fire them up and see what happens. So anyways, I've got a little bit of a hike to do. I got to drag all these up to the backyard over there. So I'll be back in a second and we'll start firing some of these suckers up. Alright guys, so I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to start by just dragging all these engines out one by one, and then eventually we'll get a nice lineup across the backyard here. And I'll get some video of them all running together. At least all the ones that are here. Not all of them are here, so I'll have to shoot the ones that are at my house separately at a later date. But figured we might as well start where the the hobby all started. This is my 1951 Briggs & Stratton Model 9 that I turned into a hit-and-miss engine. And this was my very first engine. And like I said, that's where the hobby all started. So figure we kind of sort of go in order here of the order that I picked these things up. So there is actually a video about this on my channel already, but it's going a long ways back at this point. So I think in the near future I'm going to make a better, newer, more dedicated video of it. But for now, let's just see if it will fire up. This one's been sitting since November. All right, so let's see if she'll fire up. Sorry, I forgot my tripod, so this thing's going to have to do. I got the pull rope here. Normally, I have this thing tuned well enough where you could just yank on the flywheel and it'll start like a real hit and miss. But seeing as though this one's been sitting since November, I'm going to use the pull rope. Just put some gas in it, put the choke on, let's see what happens. Oh, first start. We got a little pop there. Alright, so I just cleaned up the points a little bit. Let's see what happens. Oh, man, that's more like it. Yeah, there we go. That's running really well. Oh, I'm very happy with that. Hopefully cleaning points is all I have to do today. Hitting and missing, I love it. Yeah, I'll definitely have to make a modern, better video of this at some point soon. It's definitely something unique and something you don't see every day. Oh, I'm pretty happy with that. Cool. Alright, I'm going to drag out the next engine and we'll see if it will fire up. Alright guys, so next up is the 1956 Briggs Model 6FB, I believe. It's been a while. Yep, 6FB. Powering a little tiny Marlow pumps, water pump, as you can see here. I say little and tiny because I just picked up a much larger version of this with a Wisconsin engine on it that I'm currently making a video of, actually. So that probably won't be in this video, but yeah, it makes this one look tiny. This one has always been tough to start. It has some issues, so I'm not extremely hopeful, but I guess we'll find out. I think the next thing I'm going to try, I've had this carburetor, I rebuilt this carburetor myself, and I had somebody else take a look at it and make sure, and they ended up rebuilding it just for the hell of it, and it still wasn't quite right. So I think what I might have is a warped flange either in here or up here that's sucking air, but I guess we'll find out. So I'm going to set you guys back down here again. Actually, I got to move my little pedestal over here. Set you guys down, and we'll see what happens. Even on a good day, this thing isn't exactly the easiest to start. This one actually still has gas in it, although it doesn't exactly look like the healthiest color. So that's probably not going to help us, but we'll see what happens. Choke. Oh, we actually got a little something there. Almost. Alright, so after a little more fiddling with it, I actually got it started and running pretty good. I don't know, maybe if I get really ambitious, I'll actually have it pump water when I have them all lined up, but I gotta see how much time I end up having tonight, because the sun is working its way down, but for the size of this pump, this thing throws a hell of a lot of water out of it, I can tell you that much. I basically run it at an idle at the shows, and the tub is just like, whoa. So, there you go. That's the little Marlow pumps with the Briggs 6FB on it. Misfiring a little bit, but like I said, this thing's definitely got some issues, so it's going to be subject of a future video probably, but I'm going to go grab the next engine. Alright, so next up is the 1920s Ideal Model V. It's a reel mower engine. There is a video of this up on the channel. Actually, there's several. One of them's pretty recent where I actually got it running well, but for those of you who don't know, this was a project and a half. Took me a year and a half of consistent tinkering to get this thing right, and I messed with just about every single part of the engine, but as of, I don't remember, like January, maybe February, had this thing running real sweet, so I'm pretty happy with it. So let's see if it'll actually fire up. It's been sitting dormant for a couple months now, so no promises, but let's see. Got a little pop out of it there. There we go. Actually fired up relatively easily. These things just aren't exactly the smoothest running engine. They never were. But as you can see, it jumps around like a lot. And that's mainly due to the fact that this is not a balanced engine by any means. I am planning on balancing it some. In fact, I already started with that copper ring there, as you can see, but that's actually not enough weight. So I'm going to make a bigger one and put it on the other side of the flywheel. But hey, at least it's running. The problem is that it jumps around so much. You can hear it surging up and down. The problem is it jumps around so much that it messes with the float in the carburetor. So it ends up kind of running real fast, and then it kind of starves for fuel and then dies out a little bit. So this really needs to be bolted down to a 400-pound reel mower to run really well. But if it runs like this all day at a show, and I can get it a little bit more balanced, I'll be pretty happy. So let's check out the next engine. Alright, so next up is the 1950s, I think. Little Red Devil lighting plant. It's powered by a Wisconsin AENL engine. Or at least I think so. The tags are missing. That's why all these things are, you know, estimates. But it's a 3 kilowatt AC electric generator set, or light plant. It's quite a tank, and it's pretty cool. 1800 RPM. Let's see if the old Wisconsin wants to cooperate here. There is some iffy gas in here, I can say that much. So hopefully this will fire up with relative ease, but I guess we'll find out. There we go. She's away. I absolutely love 1800 RPM generators. They're just as loud as 3600 RPMs, but they're so much more pleasant to listen to. It sounds like this thing's idling compared to modern generators. Just puts right along. It's so nice. I wouldn't call it quiet, but much more pleasant to listen to. That's for sure. I'll have to find something to plug into it when we do the lineup. But so far, knock on wood, we've been pretty darn lucky with these things firing up with relative ease, so hopefully that trend will continue. Alright, next up is the 1950, I believe. It's been a while since I looked at my spreadsheet. Briggs & Stratton Model 5S, as you can see. That is powering my homemade show air conditioner. This is a big box fan I built out of scrap, and the little 5S fits perfectly on it, and it just chugs along at the shows and keeps me nice and cool. So these 5S's, I'm going to jinx myself here. Knock on wood, these 5S's are pretty bulletproof, and there's not a whole heck of a lot to go wrong, so hopefully our trend will continue, but now that I said that, it probably won't. Let's see. Just filled her up with some fuel. See what happens. Oh, got a couple pops. That's always a good sign. Almost. Well, turns out I jinxed myself as I predicted. It's been about 25 minutes since the last clip. Finally got it running right. Changed out the plug for a different one I had. I think that one just got a little gooped up. I'm going to put that one back because it's a cool old plug. Yeah, you can see it's a real old champion. Just a little gooped up, and the carburetor got clogged up. Really nothing to these carbs, so I was kind of surprised at that, but we can go ahead and put the belt on here. That's how I run it at shows, it just kind of chugs along. And yes, I leave the belt loose on purpose. But it actually moves a really good amount of air. If I ever need more, I rev it up. But good to have that one finally running. Now I'm really running out of daylight. But that's alright, I'll work into the dark a bit. Gonna go ahead and grab the next engine. Alright, so next up is the 1948 Briggs & Stratton model NPR6, as you can see there. And the R6 means it's got a 6-to-1 gear reduction on it, as you can see. Restored this one about a year ago, actually. This was my first quarantine project. And it came out pretty darn good. I actually have an air cleaner I'm going to put on here. I just got to restore the elbow. Just picked it up. It's all rusty. I'll get it right though. Complete it with the air cleaner there, that would be real nice. Looks like it got a little bit of surface rust on some stuff there though. That's not cool, but these aren't exactly stored in a dry environment either, but let's see if she'll fire up. Again, I apologize for the suboptimal camera placement, but it's all I got to work with today. Open up that valve. Bone dry. Alright. It's the only problem with restoring engines. You gotta be really careful about gas splashing. Oh, first pull! That's the best one of the night so far. That just made my day. There you go. You can't beat that. You can see how fast the engine is spinning there, and then how slow the gear reduction is going there. This one runs pretty smooth, and it will generally chug along all day, but the carburetor does have some issues. It kind of tends to surge up and down a little bit on its own. Not entirely sure why that is, but when I did this, I was still kind of at the point in my engine collection, collecting hobby, where I didn't so much care for it being perfect as long as it ran. I've kind of changed that since then, and what I've been doing is, from that point on when I said this is stupid, I'm just going to make them completely right so I don't have to go back to them again. I've been doing every engine since then as best I can to make it really good so I don't have to mess with it anymore. But then after I finish that, and I've kind of been doing it back and forth a little bit, I'm going back to the engines like this, and I'll take that carburetor completely apart and rebuild it and make sure it's perfect, so it doesn't have any issues. I'm definitely going to do that with the little pump over there too, but that's just how it goes sometimes. But I'm pretty happy that started so easily. That made my day. Oh, and I definitely have to make a new fuel line for that. That fuel line is disgusting. So, anyways, let's go dug out the next one. All right, so this is my Lawson RSH 899. I believe it's a 1954. And I did forget to mention, that's got a video on the channel. This has got a video on the channel. Actually, a couple videos of when I first got it running and then also restoring it. This has a video on the channel of getting it running. But what you haven't seen yet is this little generator setup I built for it. Still a work in progress. That's why you haven't seen it yet. But this was my plans for this engine, was to build a nice little generator for it like this. So the ultimate plan is to bring this to shows, let it put along, and then use the output from that alternator there to run some of the hit and miss engines that need a constant power supply, like a battery, so I don't have to have batteries lying around. That's the idea, at least. Still working on it. I welded up the frame and everything, as you can see here, but it turns out that alternator there is bad, so I'm, at some point I have to find another alternator cheap and throw it on there. But the engine, at least it did run pretty darn well. At some point I got to get a real gas tank for it. This is a Briggs gas tank, but it works. So, let's see, is there any gas in here? Oh, there is. Okay, that's cool. There we go. I also did get a rope cup for it. Again, it's not the right one, but it looks good enough for me. I believe it's actually off a Clinton, but I could be wrong. Let's see what happens. That is definitely not going to work. That's a little better. Let's see what happens. There we go. Oh. Obviously I haven't tuned in the speed yet because the alternator doesn't work, but there you go. You can see the belt and the alternator goes, I think I have it as a 2-to-1 step up. Definitely put the load on the engine, but that alternator spins really nice and fast, which is good. And that throttle isn't really all that open. Could open that up a lot more if I need to, but not a bad speed for it where it is either. When I finish this up, I'll do a video on it, as I've said a lot now. But there you go, that one runs pretty good. Alright, next up is the 1936 Briggs Model H lever start. You guys have probably actually been seeing the series go on about this one, but I recorded that a long while back, so I did actually get it running, and it runs pretty darn well, so this is kind of a spoiler, sorry. But I really do like this engine a lot. I really like it. Very happy with my purchase. It's a really neat piece. Only thing I'm missing is a muffler, but honestly it doesn't sound too bad straight piped either. But I'll probably get a Briggs hot dog muffler, kind of like this, but the bigger version. But anyways, let's see if she starts. This one is usually a little bit finicky to get going. You have to mess with the adjustments on the carburetor a bit. Carburetor's a little bit finicky. Of course, it's, you know, like 80 something years old, and it was pretty crude to begin with. So once it warms up, it runs pretty well though. Just getting it started can be a little bit finicky. Fill her up with a little gas, turn the fuel on, put the choke on. Just going to richen the mixture a tiny bit. Usually helps it get going here. Carburetor is also worn out, which doesn't help, but let's see what we get. Let it run real rich for a little bit while it warms up. There we go, now it's got a little heat in it. Runs pretty good. It misses every once in a while. That's probably because the exhaust valve seat should probably be cut, and the valves should probably be done properly too. I only lapped them because I don't have a valve grinding tool or a seat grinder. But honestly, if it misses every once in a while like that, I'm alright with it. Kind of gives it a little bit of character. You know, it runs along, chugs out a little bit of smoke. I mean, maybe one day I'll get to it, but I don't know. I kind of like it where it is. I really do like the lever start though, it's pretty cool. You can see a decent amount of flywheel too. There you go, 1936 Briggs Model H. I do still have a couple more engines here I gotta dig out, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. But we have, I think, 2 or 3 more here to dig out. The rest of them are unfortunately at my house, so they won't be part of the grand lineup here, but oh well, I'll have to shoot that separately. But I'm gonna go dig out the last 2. Alright, this is my early 60s David Bradley generator. I believe it's a 1000 watt generator, or 1500, something like that. The tag's down here. I just can't read it from my angle. Unfortunately, 3,600 RPM, so it's a screamer and it's stupid loud, but for 20 bucks I couldn't say no. So it's a cool little unit. There's a video about getting this going on the channel as well. Tank is bone dry, so I'm gonna bring my little pedestal over. Actually, I might even be able to leave it where it is. Just zoom in. Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. Gonna zoom in there, put some fuel in it, and see if she fires. All right, give her a little choke. Let's see what happens. Hunts a little bit. It smooths out under load, but when it's just at a, you know, with a no load situation, it always does hunt a little bit. But it's a smooth runner. It's just really, really loud. These aluminum block engines, they just don't have the mass, you know, and sound dampening qualities as cast iron. Yeah, they're just not as quiet. They can't absorb as much air. I mean, sound. And when you're screaming them at 3,600 RPM, I mean, they're going to make some noise, even with the low tone muffler on it. But it is running. It smoothed out a little bit. It just needed a little mixture adjustment. But there you go. The early 60s David Bradley little generator. Let's go see if the last thing will fire up. Alright, so the last piece I'm going to try and fire up for tonight is this antique Homelight trash pump. I believe it's a product of the 60s, but it's a Homelight 2-cycle engine on a big diaphragm pump, and it's pretty neat. Sorry if I sound out of breath, I just had to lug this thing all the way from the shed all the way around here, and it's pretty heavy. But this is a pretty cool piece. It's 2-stroke. Not a huge fan of 2-stroke engines, but I like this thing, and it was for free, so again, couldn't say no. But anyways, let's see if she'll fire up. Choke's on, full throttle, let's see what happens. Semi-decently. You can see the big diaphragm. If you hear it working, I can put my hand over it. Turn the speed down a bit. That's the big diaphragm pump. 1960s Homelight. I just think this thing is the coolest looking thing back here. Watching that go up and down. Definitely have to find some hoses and a big tub to let it pump. But I think this is all I'm going to fire up for today. At least over at my grandparents' house here. The rest of them are at my house. That would be the 1939 Briggs Model B crank start, the Whitty, the Fuller & Johnson, the Briggs Model I, which you guys haven't seen yet, and 2 other engines which you guys haven't seen yet, but they're in pieces, so they're definitely not going to fire up anytime soon. So Oh, and then there's one more hit and miss engine here that's also not ready to be fired up. So all the ones at my house need work except for the Witty. That's why they're over there. So I think this might be it for this video, and I might make an amendment to this video as a separate video at a later point. But happy spring, everybody. Now I can't wait. I gotta go fire all these up at once. I can't help myself. Alright, so I got them all lined up, hopefully all in frame. It's kind of hard to do because they're spanning about 40 feet, but might even be more than 40 feet. Well, gonna go down the line and fire them all up, make some noise. Or not. There we go. Flooded the hell out of it by accident. That seems happier. Move this a little closer this way. Make sure that's all still in frame there for you guys. Yeah, there we go. Let's see if the pump will fire up. Pump fired up. We're all good there. I'm actually going to skip the ideal and come back to it because it jumps around so much. So I'll come back to it. That is music to my ears. Model 9, hit and miss. Briggs Model 6FB pump. Ideal Model V. Little Red Devil with the Wisconsin AE&L. 5S, Briggs 5S on the fan. MPR 6. Briggs Boston RSH 899. Briggs Model H. Briggs number series from the early 60s. And the home light. I can feel the ground shaking right now. This is ridiculous. I'm by the way, being right there and right there. But that is a hell of a lineup. Very happy with that. Alright guys, so it's the next day. I ended up running out of light last night. And I dragged the 1939 Briggs Model B over here to my grandparents' place. So let's do a spring startup on this one too, and then we'll conclude this video. Because I think this is going to be all the engines we're going to do for this video. This is all that I have currently running. So, let's set the camera down here, and we're going to go for a start. I'll try and stay out of the way. Got the compression release. Crank. Can't beat that. That's for damn sure. Although, if I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, I was working on this one today, so... And it has been running recently, so it's not really a cold start. I did have to do the first fire up off camera, but I figured what the hell, I might as well add it to this video. Got this thing running pretty darn smooth. Just putting right along. Go ahead and shut her down. So with that guys, I think I want to conclude this video here because by the time I get all the other engines running, it'll be another year. So I think this is going to be it for spring startups in terms of engines this year. So anyways guys, thank you all for watching. If you like what you see, hit the little like and subscribe buttons. By all means, leave a comment if you have one, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.